Another cupcake on the schedule for Clemson. Will the Tigers find a way to cover again here? We'll find out in a second, but first I want to share with you a couple of things I have going on at Wager Talk. Site-wide, we have a great promotion right now. You basically get an extra month for about $3 a day. So instead of 30-day all access, we've got 60-day all access up at a very discounted rate. If you use it on me, you're going to get my first month of college basketball, up about 50 units over the past 2 seasons. And the end of the MLB playoffs. If you're watching this video on Thursday, I have another 5% MLB max bet in the playoffs on Thursday night. I've now hit 7 baseball plays in a row, including a 5%er on Wednesday on the Yankees. So great time to take advantage of that special at Wager Talk, all access, all sports. October, the best time of year to have one of our all access packages for any handicapper with all the sports that we have going on right now. Okay, back to the ACC. We're talking Clemson and Wake Forest today. The free play videos here, the standalone videos I've done on YouTube have done well. 5-1 over the last 2 weeks. And I realized that this week I've only signed up for 2. So I've got 1 college football, 1 NFL, which you can find on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. But we're going to do a double here. So we're going to do a side and total in this Clemson-Wake Forest game because I have pretty strong opinions on both and didn't want to choose the wrong one. So we'll go 2 picks in this video right here. And I'm going to look at Wake Forest and the over. So first off, I think I don't know how relevant this is, but it should be noted that Clemson has had their trouble with Wake Forest over the years, specifically the last 2 years. Last year's game was an ugly 17-12 game down at Clemson that Clemson escaped with and won. And then 2 years ago, that really good Clemson team, I believe they were number 5 in the country at that point, went to Wake Forest right on this field right here and probably should have lost. Ended up winning 51-45 in double overtime. So, Wake has been a little bit of a thorn in the side for Clemson from a standpoint. You go back the last decade, and there's been competitive games in this series, despite Clemson typically being like a big favorite, which they are here. Now, I think Clemson's really benefited from a very weak schedule the past month or so. Listen, we aren't that far removed from week 1, where Clemson couldn't even put up 200 yards of offense against Georgia and lost by 30. I mean, it is Georgia. I get that, but still, couldn't move the ball at all. 188 yards of total offense, 31-point loss to Georgia, not even competitive. So, it looks like they're rolling now, but the schedule has been very weak. That blowout of Appalachian State back in week 2 looked more impressive then than it does now. Since then, App State has lost to Marshall and Southern Alabama. And I think if these 2 teams, Clemson and App State, played this week, that spread is much different, much, much bigger. Now, Clemson still covers, with that final score, but still, that win is less impressive to me now than it was then. And you get to ACC play, and Clemson has played no one so far. The combined record of the teams that Clemson has played in the ACC is 2-8. The NC State game, NC State didn't have their quarterback. And so Clemson crushes NC State without their quarterback, but that's a bad NC State team. That Wolfpack team has now given up 202 points this season. It's far and away the worst, the most points allowed from any team in the ACC. The next week, Clemson, they cover against Stanford, but I watched every snap of that game. I think the 40-14 final is slightly deceiving. Stanford really hung in that game in the first 3 quarters. Ashton Daniels goes down in the 4th quarter, and that's sort of when Clemson was able to open it up. I believe you had a similar number in that game as you do in this one, 20, it was 21. I think it even steamed all the way up to 24. And, Stanford really kind of had that within the number until Daniels got hurt. They end up winning by 26. So just covering. And I don't know if they cover that big number, without the Daniels injury. And then last week, depending on what number you got last week, you would have either covered or not covered with Clemson. If you got in early on Clemson, you covered 14, 14.5, 15. If you bet it on game day, Florida State plus 17 gets there. It lands 16. But that was a game where, Clemson put up their 500 yards of total offense, padded those offensive, metrics in that game, but couldn't finish off a drive. On numerous occasions, gets down to the red zone, kicks a field goal, 29-13 finals. So again, and that's a Florida State team that's 1-4 and now rated near the bottom of the ACC. So again, a lot of big wins here over the last 4 weeks for Clemson, but not overly impressive in my opinion. I guess they've done what they've needed to do. They are top 5, Clemson that is, top 5 nationally in point margin in the first half. So what that means is they've pretty much been playing with a lead for the last month. But they've given up a ton of offense to their opposition in garbage time. That's not really something that you want, when you're looking at a 21-point road favorite. Not exactly what you're looking for. A team that gives up a ton, in garbage time when they're in the lead. And Wake Forest, as sort of bad as they've been at times, and they've been poor defensively, they've been able to move the ball. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. And that's sort of how I think that this game plays out. You look at Wake Forest the past 2 weeks, and, I took a loss with them in the Louisiana game. They still sort of moved the ball at will. They lost 41-38. Last week, Wake Forest puts up 34 in a win over NC State, road win. So now they have a little bit of momentum back. You go back 2 weeks, they led the majority of that Virginia game, really kind of gave it up right at the end. That was a game where Virginia scored, I believe it was 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to come back and win 31-30, but you still had 30 from Wake Forest. And I guess I'm willing to throw out the 40-6 loss to Ole Miss, one of the, sort of the elite programs in the country. So, but still, not going to excuse the 41 they allowed to Louisiana. The defense was terrible in that game. I didn't think the defense was great for Wake Forest last week against NC State. So hard to see Clemson not getting their yards here. And probably I lean toward Clemson being more efficient in the red zone in this game than they were against Florida State. So that leads me to 2 things. One, I think this total is low. It's 61 right now. I think you're probably going to get, even if you get an onslaught here from Clemson, you're probably going to get some scoring from Wake Forest. But at the same time, I don't think Wake Forest is totally incompetent on the offensive side of the ball. And Clemson, the numbers are pretty clear over the last 4 weeks. They've been ahead big at the half in pretty much every game, or playing with a big lead at just about every game so far the past month. And they've given up points when ahead. So I think that leads to 2 things. One, it probably leads to this going well over the 61 points. And 2, you're talking about 20 and a half. We'll call it 20 and a half based on where the market is right now. I just think you're asking a lot for Clemson to go on the road and win by more than 20 against a team they've struggled with on a field that they've struggled on, in years past. So 2 picks for this video. I like Wake Forest plus the 20 and a half, and I like the over 61 points. I think you get scoring in Winston-Salem on Saturday. And so we'll go with those 2 picks: over Wake Forest plus 20 and a half, over 61. Please like and subscribe so we can continue to bring you these free pick videos all season. And check out my NFL video. Like I said, we're 5-1 on these YouTube standalone free pick videos. I just did a double with 2 picks for you right here. And I've got an NFL YouTube free pick video that's going to come out later today. So check that out on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. And we'll see you guys next time.